Okay, so back onto the Mini 30 with the plan to fix the front end oil leak. So I'll try and show you as I go through that what I do. First thing to do is jack it up, disconnect the battery, and then start removing parts and drain the coolant down. Sorry, just to butt in here. I just wanted to say that our main aim for these videos will be on car shows, both for minis and mixed classic car events. The likes of this video are here to act as a filler in between these shows, just to give something out on a regular basis on YouTube and give an idea of our lives with our minis. These videos are not supposed to be educational, and as a trained mechanic I have mechanical knowledge and tooling to complete this type of work myself, and these are just to show the work being done on our own cars, rightly or wrongly. I do hope they give an idea of what it takes to own a classic car, where being able to maintain them is all part of the process. Okay, battery's disconnected. Now I'm going to take the bonnet off. Just these 4 7/16 screws in here on each side of the hinges. Just makes life a lot easier and saves whacking your head. Okay, bonnet off. Now I'll take the front grille off, give me access to the bottom of the radiator, the bottom bolt, the drain plug for the radiator, although you can drain it but it just goes everywhere anyway. We'll see how we go, because I may need to take the starter off as well, and the alternator for access. Alright, so I've now jacked the car up, got it on some axle stands, safety. I'm going to drain the water off via this plug here. Some radiators may have it, some may not, depending on what they are. If not, it's just a case of disconnecting your bottom hose, which is down here, onto the water pump, and then disconnecting your 2 nuts here and your top hose, and also the radiator mounting clamp, which is back there, and you should be able to lift the radiator out. You may need to disconnect the heater hose pipe as well to allow that to lift out. So we'll do that and then we'll see what happens. Okay, so that's the radiator removed. And see, I took the complete thermostat housing off because I am changing that as well, because I'm eliminating this pipe going across, because the twin carbs don't use a heating manifold. So that's been eliminated, and that'll be routed into here. I may have to do a little bit more work on that. I would like to eliminate this manual control here with an electric one somehow, so I may look into that. So the next job is remove the fan with 4 screws on the front. I'll probably remove the alternator as well, and I may have to remove the starter so I can lock the engine up to undo the front pulley. As you can also see, draining the water leaves a mess. Fortunately, Mini, that's standard. I don't know of any way of draining water on a Mini without making a mess. Okay, and you can see I've taken the alternator off, also taken the starter motor off. Just allows me to be able to lock the flywheel up when I come to undo the damper nut. I'm also going to take this support bracket off for the radiator. It allows, just gives it more access to gain to the damper, and then I should be able to undo the front cover and remove that. What I will do first though, however, is time the engine up to top dead centre. I'll take the rocker cover off and make sure both inlet and outlet are rocking, because I'm going to do the back plate. I need to undo the camshaft, so I'll have to re-time it up, and it'll just make things line up easier when I come to reassemble it. Okay, so I've turned it round to top dead centre, took the rocker off, and my inlet and exhaust valve on number 1 are both rocking, so I know that's top dead centre on number 1. If it wasn't, then you just rotate it 180 degrees around to get that. I still can't get the socket properly on the bottom mount, so I'll have to slacken the bottom mount off and lift the engine up a bit to get that in there. 1 5/16 spanner or socket. You'll definitely need a socket, they tend to be rather tight. Okay, so I've removed the damper nut using the persuading bar there, and just using the lever there to lock the flywheel up. As I say, they do have a locking tab on them, but you tend to find they'll undo with them on anyway. So this has got a bit of a Loctite on there from doing it in the past, or when I built the engine. Okay, so I ended up taking the front mount completely off, just made things easier. As seen, I've removed the front cover. Looking at the gasket around that. Yeah, I don't think it was the front cover gasket leaking. So I suspected, I think it's the back plate that's leaking, or could be other things, of course. We'll have a look once we get deeper into it. If you was just doing the front cover or front crank seal, and of course at this point you would stop and just clean everything up and put it back together. But we're going to continue in remove the cam gear and the back cover. Okay, so I have the back cover off, if you can see that. Clean the gasket off. The two countersunk screws on the bottom weren't particularly tight, so I do whether it's coming from there. Where we're concerned being is underneath the head. There seems to be, you can't see it well on here, around the joint of the head it seems to be wet around here oil. It could be running down the back of the block from there. Of course on this side the oil feed to the rockers comes up from this oil gallery up the cylinder head and through to your rockers, through this cross drilling here as well. So it could be coming from there, but all we can do is put it back together and see what happens. Okay, so I've cleaned all the housing up. I'm going to fit I've painted the back plate and gasket. I'm going to apply a bit of sealant across the joint of the cylinder block here, so it minimises the risk of leak there through that joint. And it's a case of bolting it back on. I think the torque is 12 foot-pounds for the 5/16 and 5 for the quarter foot-pounds. So we'll stick that back on. Okay, so we've now refitted the backplate cover. Move that out of your way. And timing chains and cam gear with the nut torqued up to 65 and the lock tab refitted. So I'm going to see if I can just double check the timing while I'm here, and then I'll fit the front cover back on. Okay, so I'm now at the point fitting the front cover. I've cleaned it up, put a new crank seal in, because you may as well while you got it down. Everything's all sorted down there. Don't forget your splash plate on your front. And I'll use the crank pulley to, before I tighten it up, put the crank pulley on just loose, just to locate it centrally to that seal. Okay, the front cover's back on, if you can see. Front engine mount's back on, and dampers back on as well. So all that's left now is put the auxiliaries back on, start a motor, and we can do this thermostat housing change and see what it looks like then. One thing you do want to make sure you do is fit your fan the correct way round. You look at that and you think, well, that must be the front, and people put it on like that, which is incorrect. That is the front side when looking from the front of the engine, and that's the back side. So just remember, else you end up sucking in, blowing, and whichever else, and it won't effectively cool your engine as you expect. Okay, radiators, everything's back in. I've refitted the new sandwich plate on the heat hose. There's one problem. The issues I had, these bolts were too long. Kept bottoming out, so I had to trim them down. Although they were supposed to be the right ones from Mini Spares, but not a problem. You see the heater controls here, but the cable for the heater control is nowhere near, probably because of the twin carbs. So I'll have to have a think about that, what to do. I would like to get rid of it altogether and have an electric one internally, so I may look into that. But the other issue I didn't realise until I was thinking about it is, if the heater control's turned off, then because this is an A+ engine, there's no bypass in the cylinder head. So there's nothing, if that's turned off, the water can't circulate until the thermostat's open. So again, I need to look at that. It's not an issue if your heater control's open, because your water will flow through your heater matrix and back through your pump. So it's not a major issue, and it's been running like it before and never give any problems. But it is going to have to be something I'll look at to see what the solution is. I believe there's a different bottom hose or a T-piece in that resolved this on the 91 carburettor minis, but they're silly money, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something different. But that's how it looks at the moment. So the new bracket on top as well for the sandwich plate. So that's where we are at the moment. It's filled with water, everything seems okay. Blanking plate on that side, certainly a lot tidier. I'm going to put the rocker cover off, and I'm going to change the needles in the carbs. They've got KW1 needles in at the moment, or KW, sorry, and I'm going to put KW1s in, and they're a little leaner going up the range. So we'll run it at that until it goes on a rolling road and gets set up properly. So that's the everything put back together, all done and dusted. You can see still needs a good clean, but we'll do that later on. Not convinced about the bottom joint on this thermostat housing, but once we test it on the road, we'll see what it does. We'll get it hot. And the next job is interior, and we're going to replace these seats with something different.